Overtime! All right, you're watching Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and this is not what we're going to be working on today. You know, I spend a lot of time in the Overtime Arcade private, members-only Discord where I talk a lot to Overtime Arcade channel members about what's going on behind the scenes, and I ask for their advice and input and preferences on what projects I should work on next, what I should prioritize, the videos that I should release in a given week. And, you know, coming off of the 12 Days of Arcademas that we recently wrapped up, you know, I was kind of scrambling to get some content together because the show must go on, right? I need a new episode coming out every weekend. And so I was asking them what to work on, giving them a bunch of options. And initially, the consensus seemed to be, Charlie, why don't you work on the quarterback? You know, back here, the one that had been converted to Ms. Pac-Man that I was going to try to turn back into a quarterback. Because I figured I might even be able to get this done in one episode, maybe. And so I'm like, yeah, why don't we do that? We'll knock that out real quick. Start the new year on a roll. And yeah, I dug into this earlier this week, and I don't have all the parts I need. So this is not going to happen this week. And then we said, hey, let's work on the Q*bert cabinet, or cabinets, as I should say. And the next step with Q*bert was to strip off the black paint covering up these cabinets. You know, I've got two of them here, both of which had been converted. And so I got, I got to town, I got working, stripped off one side relatively okay on one cabinet, and then over here, stripped off another side of another cabinet, and that's kind of okay. I'm like, all right, so let's do this. And then I come over here, and this side of this cabinet is just giving me all kinds of grief. Poor Q*bert, right? So I think this is the original layer. It kind of matches, although it doesn't really look like it from here. This, I think, is the base layer that I'm trying to get down to. But there isn't just black paint on top of it. There's this like dark gold type of color, and then another layer of yellow on top of that, and then black on top of that. You know, I was trying out different techniques and whatever, but it's just fighting me tooth and nail. And, you know, if I come over and look at what I've stripped off so far, like over here, like I'm going to have to repaint this anyway, right? Like I can't just cover this up with side art. You know, this X that's scratched in has got some, you know, texture to it, or it's got some grooves to it. We've got some damage. I don't know if this is from a tax sticker or a tax, you know, emblem or something, but it's far from perfect. And then over on this side, you know, this one looks a lot better, especially, you know, the top, I don't know, 90%, and then you get to the bottom and we've got, you know, some water damage down here. It doesn't look that bad on video, but it's very, very noticeable, and I'm just not going to be able to live with that. So I am going to end up sanding that and, you know, bondoing that and getting that nice and smooth. So that's going to have to get repainted. So I'm asking myself, you know, if I'm going to have to refinish these sides and repaint these sides anyway, why am I bothering spending, you know, 60 to 80 hours, kind of exaggerating, a bit of an inside joke, on stripping the paint off these cabinets if I'm just going to have to, you know, sand them and repaint them anyway. So I've decided with the Q*bert, you know, after all, I am going to just sand this all off. I think, you know, do it the right way. It's going to look a million times better, you know, the end result, and, you know, probably ultimately less work because I'm going to have to sand anyway. So bought a bunch more sanding discs. We're going to strip all of this paint out off down to bare wood, you know, repair both cabinets, and then paint. And I've got, you know, a bunch of paint swatches or whatever you call them, paint chips over here. Not sure if I've found an exact match yet. There used to be, you know, just like with Ms. Pac, there used to be accepted, you know, consensus agreed upon paint codes for Q*bert, the Q*bert yellow, which turns out to be the same as I think the Stargate yellow, some Valspar Susan color or something like that. And then Valspar goes and changes their formula and how their paint codes work, and nothing's an exact match anymore, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. But we're not doing that today. We're not doing that today. You know, one of the other options because I want to get something done. You know, in episodes, I like to have some progress, make some progress in a project, and have some sort of, you know, satisfying results. So we're not going to be able to do that with Qbert, and I had all these parts pulled out on the folding table over here, some new stuff that I got from Dell, and I ordered a bunch of stuff, but it's just not going to be something we can do in this episode. But yet another option that I had put forward to channel members was the Frogger. So that's what we are going to work on today to get some progress done, to get some forward momentum. We're going to work on the Frogger. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about what it means to become an Overtime Arcade channel member, hit that join button down below. Not only will you get into the private members only Discord, where again, you'll get that behind the scenes information and, you know, have some input and influence over, you know, the projects that I work on. You also get early access to all new videos. Yeah, this one's not on a dolly because the bottom's kind of messed up. Early access to all new videos. Typically, you get to watch these things on Saturdays instead of Sundays, but who knows when this video is going to be coming out. You also get access to our monthly members only live stream. Again, I've got that one coming up pretty soon. Usually I do that maybe a week before the Coin Jam podcast. So yeah, for $1.99 a month, you get to support the channel and you get access to all these awesome perks. So we are going to work on Frogger. So if you've seen previous episodes, you remember this is the cabinet that I picked up from that Division III college football frat house in Pennsylvania. And obviously it had been converted, and this has been converted to a caliber 50. I got it working. It was working, you know, partially working. I got it sort of fully working. I had the, you know, green Loop 24 rotary joysticks, which are kind of valuable. Played through it, you know. Not really my bag, not really my cup of tea. But, you know, who loved it was Steve Laity, Katsu 311 from Mosaic Arcade on YouTube. You know, it's a game that he had been wanting for a long time, so made him a good deal, sold it to him. The working PCB and the controls and the harness, shipped them off to him, and he's really thrilled about that. He's already built it into a cabinet. He should have a video coming very soon about his caliber 50 build. And we're turning this back into a Frogger. In another episode, I got a BitKit 2 from Aaron Crafty Mech, a BitKit 2. We installed it in to the cabinet. We put a new JAMA harness in the cabinet from Bob Roberts. We got it all wired up with the right controls, right? I mean, it's not correct, like with the control panel overlay. We got some repair work to do on the control panel. Correct joystick, correct buttons. And we were playing Frogger on the 4600, you know, the original monitor that is working. We've got a lot of work to do, but anyway. And then in another episode, I think last week, we got all of these PCBs, including 2 Frogger PCBs. One I got from Kazela's Arcade on YouTube. That PCB is working, although the sound, like the music, is really, really quiet. So we'll take a look at that. And we got another PCB from Photoboy, an Overtime Arcade channel member, that caught on fire. The tantalum cap burst into flames. So yeah, so in this episode, I'm going to try to do a couple of things. I'm going to do as much as I can. It's already late tonight. It's Thursday. I've got nothing recorded except for what you're seeing so far. And ideally, we'll start to strip the sides of the cabinet. We'll maybe rip the old control panel overlay off of the control panel. I'm going to have to fill these holes. Let's see, is the original hole still here? Probably is. Yeah, the original hole is still here. I'm going to have to fill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes, similar to, you know, I'm going to use a similar technique to what I did with the Pango with JB Weld and washers, that sort of thing. Not prepared to do that today. That takes more than a day to do that, but maybe we'll strip the CPO, we'll strip the black paint and side art, and maybe we'll look at replacing the capacitors on the PCB that's mostly working and see if that fixes our sound issue. And yeah, we're going to try to do all of that. I don't know if I'm going to get all of that done in this episode, but those are my aspirations for this evening, and maybe we'll go into tomorrow a little bit working on this, or tomorrow my time. So stripping the paint, right? So Frogger cabinets, wood grain vinyl sides, right? So Wood grain sides, I got to remember, I think the front was wood grain also. You know, they had a control panel overlay, a cardboard bezel, and a marquee. Some of them had side art. I think that was optional. Still trying to decide exactly what I want to do in terms of side art, but I think we've got the original wood grain vinyl. I can see it kind of poking through in some spots. Now there is some repair work that I'm going to have to do to this cabinet, most notably down here at the bottom. One of these corners is blown out, so I'm going to have to build that back up with Bondo or whatever into the original particle board, these lovely Gremlin cabinets. I think there were a few small number of Frogger cabinets were plywood, but the majority are particle board, otherwise known as granola. But I want to, you know, if I can, I want to make an attempt at stripping the, obviously the caliber 50 side art decals and stripping this black paint and seeing if I can recover this wood grain vinyl. I think there is, you know, replacement wood grain vinyl that's a decent match. It's not like the Atari Cabaret wood grain vinyl, which there is not a good match for. But I'm going to try to recover the original if possible. You know, this is a pretty low budget project that I'm doing. I'm not trying to go all out. Froggers are not super rare, super valuable or expensive. I don't want to go upside down and put a ton of money and effort into this. But if I can strip the black paint off, I'll do that. You know, we'll have to do some repair work elsewhere. But if I can get it sort of, you know, 90% of it back, I think that's the way to go. You know, different people restore projects different ways. There's been a lot of talk about that on Clov. We've been talking about that a little bit on the private members only Discord. And, you know, I try to, as much as possible, keep things original. You know, like they say, things are only original once. And I'm willing to, like, in many respects, I'll take a C grade original over an A grade reproduction, right? And so we'll make an attempt, and if it's too far gone, it's too far gone, but at least we will try. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna try to use Citrus Strip for this. So Citrus Strip is a paint stripping gel. You've probably seen me use this before. It is, you know, one of the weaker, safer paint strippers, right? It's not super, super toxic or whatever. You know, like it says, no harsh fumes, you know, right here. It is still a stripper though. You want to use, you know, protective equipment, you know, gloves and you know, safety glasses and that sort of thing. I know people have had success with the Citrus Strip stripping paint off of vinyl and not really damaging the vinyl. If you leave it on too long, it'll definitely damage the vinyl. But we're going to try to use this Citrus Strip. I went out and I went to buy more, and I saw they had it in buckets. And I went and bought a bucket of Citrus Strip, figuring I can just dip my paintbrush in this to spread it on. But I guess this is technically, even though it says gel right here, in the instructions it calls this a paste. So I don't know if this is going to work a little bit differently than the gel that I'm used to. And since I don't have a ton left in this bottle, we might actually start with the front of the cabinet. Let me see, maybe I should, well, I think I should definitely remove the control panel. So why don't we go ahead and do that? That's very easy. It's not even secured right now. We'll just go like this, and we will disconnect the Molex. I've got the space heater on in the garage too, just to warm things up. You know, I don't think you really want to work with this sort of thing. You don't necessarily want to work with this sort of thing with a space heater on, but I don't think, you know, it's a good idea to work on it when it's cold. You know, the chemicals might not react the way they're expected to. Maybe I should look at removing the coin door entirely. I think I will do that actually. What is this wire? Oh, that is a a ground. Well, these are grounds that I was adding. I see what's going on. I needed that for the controls. Yeah. It's all coming back to me. So yeah, why don't we pull this out? We'll remove the coin door just so that doesn't get in our way at all here. All right, I've got my 10mm socket here, and let's see if we can, that's going to be tight quarters to do it there. There we go, that's better. Just loosen it until it's hand tight. All right. And up here, looks like there's 6 carriage bolts holding this coin door frame on. All right, all 6 carriage bolts have been removed, one of which was connected to a ground strap, and this should, in theory, come right out, right? Yeah, look at that. And we can see, wow, look at this. Look how light it is. Some of the original wood grain vinyl that hadn't been painted over black. Yeah, look how light it is. I mean, you'll never see this because it'll still be covered up by the coin door. But this is what we're trying to recover. So let's put our coin door aside for now. We'll likely end up at least maybe giving this, maybe we'll clean it up for sure, maybe a little coat of paint on it, but again, not today. So let's see here. Yeah, here is our front panel. Get a good frame of this shot. And yeah, let's get some citrus strip on that kick plate. All right, I've got my gloves on. I've got a container for the citrus strip. I've got the cheapest chip brush that they sell at Home Depot. I'm going to shake up the remainder of this citrus strip. Do that real quick. We'll pour it into the container, a little disposable cup, and we'll basically paint it on. You want to put it on, you know, kind of thick so that there's enough, I guess, material to do the work. And we'll probably end up using, oops, the paste, the bucket of paste for the sides. So hopefully it works about the same. I can probably just empty this whole thing into here. All right, that's going to be probably enough for the front. And I'll have this maybe sit upside down so that it all drips to the bottom. We'll come in here, and again, you've seen me do this before, I think. We'll just kind of paint it on. I'm going to get it on nice and thick and goopy. I don't really want to put it onto the bare vinyl because we don't want to strip that. We want to strip the paint that's on top of it. You know, we can kind of goop it on. Oh, and there's this metal thing that I forgot about. I guess I might be able to just pull these staples out. It feels kind of loose already. Yeah, this has been removed before, it seems. There we go. Don't want to send these staples flying. Come on. There we go. And you're probably not even seeing what I'm doing, right? Come on, Charlie. Yeah, so I just removed this metal strip that kind of framed the top. And again, I want to make sure that I don't sort of get any citrus strip into the grain of the particle board. But yeah, so let me just go, I'll paint this on. And you don't need to see me painting citrus strip onto a cabinet. So let me put a nice thick layer on. We'll come back. We'll take a look at how it's working and take it from there. Okay, I've got a good coat of the citrus strip on, so I'm going to let this work for, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. I'll be looking to kind of see it bubbling and peeling off. It looks like it might be forming some bubbles initially, and that's what you want. You want the sort of old paint to kind of bubble and sort of pull away, and then we can scrape it off gently with a plastic scraper. So yeah, I'm gonna let this work for 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and see if we can strip that black paint off the wood grain vinyl. Okay, while the citrus strip is doing its thing, and I've got a timer set, I think there's about 20 minutes left, let's remove everything that we can off of the control panel and see what we got going on for us here. We'll try to strip the old control panel overlay. I'll take the joysticks, or the joystick, single joystick, and the two start buttons. Obviously Frogger is controlled with a single joystick, and there are two buttons to start one and two player games, so there's no action button. Very simple control scheme, similar to Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man in that regard. And I've got the correct joystick here, which is a tall, skinny Wicco, just like Pango, not to be confused with the short, skinny Wicco, like on Jungle King and Jungle Hunt. This is a 4-way joystick, and it's in reasonably good shape. I don't know. I was thinking about, I can't remember what I even talked about in the previous episode, like removing or replacing the grommet, and I do have new ones. We'll have to see how it's how it's feeling. These are not the correct screws, carriage bolts. I just grabbed some long bolts to temporarily affix the joystick into one of the available joystick holes, just so that we could play it while we were using that bit kit in here. And don't worry, that bit kit will get put to use in another game. I got another idea for what I want to use it for, but not quite ready to talk about that yet. So let me get these bolts out of here real quick. All right, the joystick's out, but it is all wired together into that Molex plug, so I can't just yank it out of the way. But it will fit, or no. Will it fit through the hole? Nope, it won't even. Nope, not quite, and I don't want to force it. Let me get this, my smaller pliers here, get this E-clip removed without letting it go flying. Here we go. Now we can pull the ball top out. Put that off to the side here. And reinstall our E-clip so we don't lose this sucker. There we go. And let's see. Yeah, we might be, I think we're gonna, oh yeah, a lot of slop in there. We're gonna be replacing that grommet. Don't worry, I've got a new one. Okay, let's get these panel nuts out of here. Get the buttons off. All right, we've got my spacers that I have to split, but I think, there we go, there's our entire control panel harness there. We'll push all this stuff out of the way. Kind of take a look at what's going on with the rest of this control panel. We do have 3 carriage bolts that they're using here, and I wonder if these were like the original ones. That's kind of interesting to think. We've got 3, because I don't know, these were moved from above. Yeah, I think they're supposed to go up here, and there's a spot for them to mount, interesting, onto the cabinet. So I think that's what these are from. So these will be holes to fill. I thought I had broken the nut here. There's one. I know, this is so interesting, watching Charlie loosen nuts and bolts. But you know, it's all part of the process. These are the things you got to do. What you got to do. All right. And yeah, that space heater is doing its job. It's raised at a good, 5 degrees already. So here is our control panel, and there's this piece of plexi we can pull right off. And it's almost, yeah, it's taped. There's tape here. It's taped on the top, so I'll take that off. I don't know if I can, oh, this is really flexible. Plexi, I don't know if I can reuse this for anything. Maybe for some of the Bondo work. And you can see down here what the colors are supposed to look like. You know, where it's been faded by the sun and where it hasn't. So it's too bad because I don't think there is a scan of this control panel, and or the control panel overlay, and this is not in good enough shape to scan. It's physically damaged. It's all ripped apart here. Colors are all faded. So I think Steve Laity is going to have to find some other control panel overlay to get scanned and reproduced at some point, but we'll let him discuss his plans when he makes his own video. This is all trash. Yeah, it's almost like not quite skateboard grip tape, but imagine if there wasn't any sand or you know, on that grip tape. No, it's all sticky. We'll have to use our acetone to remove that. But this CPO is coming right off in a couple spots here, so I might be able to just, well, maybe not. I was thinking I could grip it and rip it. Not quite. See how lifted it is? Yeah, see how that peels right off? Oh man. What is this? Is this like textured paint that they It's not glue. It's not a previous CPO. This is so bizarre. Maybe it's the glue that's separated from the adhesive that's separated from the CPO. Wild. Feel like I'm peeling a hard-boiled egg. Yeah, I don't see a previous CPO underneath here. All right, peeling a hard-boiled egg is definitely the best way to describe how that's going, and it's not done yet. But I think I'm going to bring out the big guns, and I finally got something I've been meaning to pick up for a while, which is, oh, let me find it. Here we go. An attachment for my Dremel tool. So it's not that. Okay, where did I put it? All right, here we go. So here's my here's my Dremel, and here's something I got from Harbor Freight. This says multi-tool blade set, flexible scraper and rigid scraper, and I think rigid scraper is the one that I want for this task. So we'll just gracefully cut it out of the packaging here. All right, there we go. And it's like double, there we go, double packed in there. Whoops. And, all right. And yeah, some of the guys I'm in a group chat with were recommending this as, I think Dell maybe was saying how this is a great tool to use for stripping off this stuff. I think that's the way it goes on. I don't use my Dremel all that much, but it's a good tool to have. Come on. There we go. It feels loose. Harbor Freight special. Let me plug this in. Hopefully I don't blow a fuse with the space heater on. Let's see. Nope, not gonna blow a fuse. Man, that feels... Why does it keep going all the way to the side? Anyway, we put some gloves on so I don't mangle my hands here. Actually, before I go to town with the Dremel on the old CPO, my timer went off, so I've had the citrus strip on the front plate, the kick plate of the cabinet for about 30 minutes, and I'm ready to start do a test removal and see if it's ready yet. And I'm looking at it, and it looks nice, and I can actually bring you in real close and see if we can get a view of this. It's nice and wrinkly. And if you can see this, that's what you want to see. It's like the paint is lifting from the substrate, the layer below the wood grain vinyl. So see how wrinkly that looks. That's the sign. That's what we're looking for. So I've got put you back on the tripod, and I've got a little plastic putty knife scraper tool, nice and relatively soft, because we don't want to rip the vinyl, because the vinyl is probably softened, if nothing else, by the citrus strip. So I've got my paper towel handy. I've got my trash can on wheels handy right here, and yeah, we're gonna see if this stuff is ready to come off. So here we go. Oh yeah, like butter. Oh, oh yes. All right, we got a little bit right there. That's kind of stubborn. Oh yeah. Let me tell you, as frustrating as it's been with the Cubert, I am very relieved to see how nicely this paint is coming right off. You never know based on the paint that was used and the environmental conditions, like, how warm it is in my garage, right, when I'm doing this. Your mileage may vary, right? There's a million different, not a million, but there's a ton of different variables here that can affect how this goes. But that is pretty nice. And while I've got the everything out, let me put a little bit more citrus strip on this stubborn spot. But yeah, I think this is going to be good. And there were some exposed spots of the wood grain vinyl that don't seem to have been any worse. They're not any worse for the wear from being, having some citrus strip on it. So I'm not too worried about this. I don't really want to get it into the pores of the particle board, but there we go. We'll let that work for a little bit. So, my goodness, this is the grossest, nastiest stuff. Well, there's much nastier stuff out there, but look at that. All right. Yeah. Let's make sure it doesn't get into the fresh stuff. Okay, there's some, a couple more stubborn spots, but for the most part, look at that. It reminds me of like salmon skin. If you ever cook salmon fish, when the black paint comes off with the citrus strip, salmon skin is what that reminds me of. All right. Okay, like I said, just a couple of stubborn spots here where maybe the paint was on a bit thicker or could have used a few more minutes. And I don't want to scrape too hard and damage the vinyl, but all right. I am very, very pleased with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to scrape this and maybe put a bit more on in some of the areas with They're being a bit stubborn. And then I'll show you when I apply the paste to the side of the cabinet, but I'm going to assume, and hopefully I don't live to regret it. Well, hopefully I don't regret it. I'm going to sort of treat it the same way as the gel, because I think it basically is the same stuff. Well, I'll show you how that, we'll open that up together for the first time and take a crack at that. But so far, hey, I'm really, really happy with this, so stay tuned. Okay, now that that last bit of paint is bubbling off with an additional second application of citrus strip on the kick panel, kick plate, I am going to come to town, get to work with this Dremel attachment and see if this scraper will help rip this old CPO off. So let's give it a shot. Well, that's interesting. Did I put it on backwards or upside down or something? Why is it? Is there supposed to be something that like holds it on? Clearly I'm not doing something right. All right, I think I got it back on, I hope. It doesn't, I don't know, did I break my Dremel? I think I've got it on the right way, or is there supposed to be something kind of holding it from the other side? I don't know, hopefully there's... Yeah, it wants to like fall right off. All right, I don't know what I'm doing wrong with that Dremel. And in fact, while not on camera, not while it was on, I was trying to tighten or adjust the attachment. I managed to slice the heck out of the thin skin in between my fingers. So that's not good. Got a bunch of Band-Aids on underneath the gloves here. But anyway, we're ready to strip the rest of the stubborn paint. So hopefully this comes off more easily. Yeah, look at that. All right. We're having success over here. That looks real good. All right. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of the vinyl's coming off over there. I think most of, well, not, we're doing pretty good though. All right. Wipe this off. All right. I am pretty pleased with this. Be careful you don't scrape too hard, and like I said, rip the vinyl. But I don't expect it to be perfect, but this is better than I was expecting it. That is for sure. I think there's maybe a little vinyl damage right there. All right. Very, 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 very happy with this. Don't know what's going on with my Dremel, but very happy with this. All right. So, and I think a little bit right here, but I think this I can sort of take care of with isopropyl. I can probably get the rest of this with isopropyl and paper towels. So let's do this. Let's first give this a dry wipe down. All right, get as much of the remaining citrus strip off as possible, and I can see some of it is kind of working its way into these holes. Maybe I'll get some Q-tips and clear that out. But yeah, just a initial dry wipe here to remove as much of the loose, wet citrus strip as possible, because you don't want to leave it on there and it'll just eat through the vinyl, because this stuff is a stripper. Then I'll take bottle of isopropyl. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol, which dries pretty quickly. And spray it on, not get too much, kind of control where it's going. And we'll wipe it wet. Oh yeah, look at that. You know, we're probably taking a little bit of the black paint off the inside of the lip of the cabinet. I'm not too worried about that though, because we can always touch that up. That's easy enough to do with some spray paint. So while we're at this, yeah, let me grab some Q-tips and clear out those bolt holes. Got some right here, just to make sure we don't leave any loose citrus strip to just worm its way through the particle board. There we go. Look pretty good. Okay. Now what I want to do, there's a little bit here and here, although most of this is like under the lip of where the coin door will go. I'm going to grab a magic eraser, and I get these cheap magic erasers in bulk. You know, magic erasers are great, and there is a name brand. Even Magic Eraser is a name brand, but if you buy them sort of normal retail, you know, packs of 3 or 6 or whatever at the store, you're going to pay a lot. And I go through a lot of these. So I'm just wetting it down with the isopropyl. I go through a lot of these, so I buy these in bulk on Amazon. I've got a link down below if you want to score a deal like that. I do have affiliate links down there, and you know, I don't make a ton off of them. I think I make like $10 a month off of the Amazon affiliate links, but you know, any tool or part or whatever that I use, I always try to put links down below to you know, where you can buy that stuff for yourself. And so the magic eraser, you know, you've seen this a ton, acts as like a really super high grit sandpaper, so you don't want to kind of go crazy in one spot over and over, but because you will rip through this vinyl. I'm just trying to get these sort of flecks and bits of paint off. Some of them might be sticking to, you know, gouges in the wood, and because it's wood grain for the most part, that's kind of obnoxious right there. It's like a speck. I don't want to rip the vinyl though. You know, because this is wood grain, it's kind of forgiving to those sorts of, you know, stains and stuff. Because sometimes it looks like it's just part of the, you know, part of the pattern or part of the imperfection. But I'll probably come back and do this a little bit more detailed later, but just doing this kind of initially. Yeah, making sure it's kind of reacting the way I want it to. And it is. Again, you don't want to go crazy. Yeah, that came right off right there. There's a spot in the corner here. Yeah, I'll spend a little bit more time with the magic eraser on my own, you know, following my own OCD. And everyone's a little bit different with that, kind of what they're willing to tolerate. Sort of like I was talking about before with, you know, how crazy do you go with restorations? Everyone's got their own preferences, so, you know, don't ever let the way I do it necessarily influence you. If you want to do it the way I do it, great. If you want to do it your own way, great. It's a free country. You know, this stuff is supposed to be fun, you know, relaxing. So, but yeah, look at that. You know, we got some damage here. Got a scrape right there, but I'm really happy with this. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to actually just wipe down the paper towel with isopropyl. So give it a wet wipe down, and just again make sure we're removing all of the active citrus strip here. Yeah, I am very, very happy with how this has gone so far. And got us a bunch of the fuzz from the paper towel got ripped up by the exposed particle board, but that's fine. That'll dry up and flake off. And then a dry wipe down here. Yeah, look at that. From 6 feet away, it looks perfect. 6 foot rule. That's what we're going for here. All right, this was in the background of a movie or TV show. You'd never ever notice that it wasn't perfect. So let's move on to the sides. I've thought a little bit about how I want to do this. There's a couple different ways we can tackle this. I could try to strip the sticker separately. That is one way of doing it, maybe with some heat or something. But I'm worried about using heat when, you know, I guess I still have a decent amount of citrus strip that's on the bottom of that bottle. I'm a little bit hesitant to use heat because I don't want to soften the wood grain vinyl that's underneath the sticker and underneath the paint. So I think I might just put the citrus strip right over this old sticker and, you know, hope that kind of leads to the outcome that we're looking for, but I don't know. You know, often none of these things are ever exactly the same. You know, the operator that did the conversion used a different paint. You know, the materials used by the original manufacturer were different. See if I can get as much of this in frame as possible. I don't know how I'm going to do that and not have a glare. So, yeah, so let me, I guess what I'll do is I'll just paint this whole thing with the, I guess the paste, and we got to figure out how this paste works. And you know, I'm not going to put any, obviously, where the exposed damage is at the bottom. That's probably out of frame. But I'm going to put a whole nice thick coat of the citrus strip onto this side. We'll let it run for maybe 45 minutes, right? Because we had some stubborn spots over here. And I don't think the wood grain vinyl, you know, was any worse for the wear. It didn't, you know, the citrus strip with you know, 30 minutes and then another 20 minutes had no effect. So maybe we'll leave it on for a good 45 minutes and then we'll strip it off and see how that goes. But let's figure out what's going on with this bucket of, I guess, citrus strip paste. Have you ever seen this before? All right, it says I should, okay. The instructions are the same, right? Use gloves and protect eyes. Apply a thick coat with a trowel, paintbrush, or plastic stripping tool. So I've got a paintbrush. Allow 30 minutes or up to 24 hours. Gently scrape. Okay, use a clean, it says afterwash or odorless mineral spirits to remove residue. And I used isopropyl. Whatever. I think I need to use a screwdriver to pop this bucket open. Let me bring you over here so you can see I'm struggling with this thing. All right. There's our Dremel and everything over here. All right, let's get this bucket open. What in the heck? Tap on with mallet. Remove with screwdriver. I'll just get my fingers underneath it. There we go. So, ooh. All right, it's not really a paste, it's definitely a gel. Let me get a fresh paintbrush here. All right, so look at that. You know what this reminds me is the ectoplasm from Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters 2. Okay, so that's gonna be fine. It's basically, I would say, the same consistency as the normal citrus strip in the bottle. So let's just come over here. I don't need to show you again like every bit of me doing this, but here's our goop. And let's, yeah, this is going on just like the normal stuff in the bottle. So, all right, I'll put a nice thick layer on the whole side, and then I'll give it 45 minutes, and then I'll bring it back, and we will hopefully strip all this stuff off together. Okay, as a matter of fact, while that side, the citrus strip on the other side is doing its magic, I am going to try a little bit of heat on this side to try to take this side art decal off at the very least. I ended up, well, actually, I used a 3-inch chip brush instead of a 2-inch chip brush on the other side just to make things go faster. And I did try to peel off the side art on the other side a little bit with the scraper tool. I couldn't quite get it to really start coming off, so I'm going to try a little bit of heat. I'm hoping that the paint will protect the vinyl from the heat. I'm going to put it on the low setting with my heat gun and let this warm up and see if we can't get this sticker to come off, because I don't know what the citrus strip is really going to do to the side art. I don't know if it'll really eat it at all, or if anything will really, just sort of strip the paint off of the side and not really do anything to the decal. All right. This is already coming off better than, well, and then I immediately tear it, of course. Already coming off better than the other side did when I was just trying to peel it without melting it at all. And this is a really thin side art decal. Now this attachment is not really rigid enough. I'm going to use the other one. That's disgusting, but I think gives me a better scraping edge. It's not as flexible. This might actually work. And then I try peeling it and it just comes apart. Now the problem is, in some spots it takes the paint with it. Yeah, I'm down all the way to, I don't know. I think that's a failed, I'm going to call that a failed experiment for now. Unless, oh ho ho. Oh ho ho. I guess this side was not sitting in the sun as much. Maybe we can just peel this thing off. All right, I'm going to get in front of the camera. Now it's ripping. Yeah, but you see what's happening? We are getting some of it off. So and this side looks like it saw less sun, so maybe it's not nearly as brittle. So let me see what I can do here without really damaging things. And yeah, I'll check back in with you in a little bit. Well, I got the sticker off the other side of the cabinet. That's the good news. The bad news is doing that took most of the wood grain vinyl off. So I think the issue is really that the adhesive holding the sticker on was much stronger, and the sticker itself was much stronger and much thicker than the wood grain vinyl, which is really, super paper thin cabinet, vertical grade, vinyl, and just basically disintegrated. So that's a completely failed experiment. So if nothing else, though, it relieves a lot of the stress of how the other side is going to come off. So I'm not really worried about that anymore. So let's go ahead and flip the cabinet around. And that's really too bad because, the front came out pretty nice. Certainly something I'd be willing to accept. quality-wise. But yeah, we're gonna have to redo at least this side. And if we're doing one whole side, we might as well redo the whole thing with fresh wood grain vinyl. So let's get a good shot here, and I'm gonna switch to you know, rubber gloves or whatever they are. Nitrile, yeah, that's what they use these days. And I buy these in bulk because I go through a lot and I just throw them away constantly. So, you know, this project just got longer and more expensive, but it'll end up looking nicer in the end. I'll just tell myself that. So, oh, and this citrus strip stinks. So, all right, let's see how it's looking. Oh, beautiful. Isn't that great? I'm nowhere near as excited anymore. Because, you know, we're going to end up stripping all this vinyl off now. So, look at that. Is the vinyl bubbling a little bit? No, I don't think so. And again, some areas were a bit more stubborn than others. It's too bad they didn't think of me, you know, whatever, 40 years ago when they converted this game. But yeah, let's see if the sticker comes off at all. Nope. 45 minutes is plenty to get this paint off. But clearly, oh, it's stubborn in some spots. But clearly, this this decal is just stubborn. So anyway, let me go ahead and strip all this off. Maybe I'll throw the citrus strip on the other side just to get all the paint off at least. But yeah, I don't know if this episode is going to have that much of a happy ending. So anyway, let me finish ripping all the citrus strip off of this side. You know, we've got the whole bottom to do here, obviously. Look how nasty that looks. So let me get this all cleaned up, and probably I don't know. I think it's getting late, and I need to work tomorrow. I do have a day job, you know. So let me get this side all cleaned up. I'm gonna go to bed, and we'll continue this on Friday. But for you, it's only going to be a couple seconds jump into the future. So I guess stay tuned. Maybe we'll salvage something at the end of this video. Okay, so here's where I left off with the stripping the paint, and yeah, disaster. I think what it really boiled down to was between the wood grain vinyl, which really is just absolutely, you know, paper thin, between that and the black paint on top of it, and the conversion side art decal on top of that, the wood grain vinyl was definitely the weak link in that, and trying to get that decal off really just wrecked, you know, pulled the paint off with it and pulled off the vinyl underneath it. So I'm going to have to completely redo it on both sides and the front, even though the front came off okay because it didn't have a decal. You know, I want it to match as boxes start to fall. It's windy outside today, if you can't tell by the wind chimes going nuts. But yeah, I'm gonna have to apply all new wood grain to the side of the cabinet, which, you know, obviously increases the expense a little bit. I'm not too worried about that, but you know, it is going to add some additional time and complexity to this restoration. And you know, the original artwork here, or you know, wood grain, is vinyl, really thin vinyl sort of wrap. And you know, that leads me to a question of what do I replace it with? You know, the common wisdom is actually to use laminate, you know, which is thicker and more rigid, but it's more expensive, and you know, the end result looks better, but it can be a bit pricey, and you know, maybe it's a good excuse to buy a router, which I definitely need to do at some point. But I think what I might do is actually go with just, you know, really thin cabinet grade vinyl wrap, right? That's really what was here originally. This is not laminate that's coming off. This is wrap. This is vinyl wrap. So I think that's what I'm going to do. It's a lot cheaper. I need to find it sort of wide enough. Usually the widest you can find of rolls is 24 inches across, and I need it, I think, at least 28 inches to get from side to side. So I'm going to have to figure out how to source that. I know Jeff Kinder from the What Would Jeff Kinder Do channel on YouTube. He's also an Overtime Arcade channel member. Jeff uses vinyl quite a bit. And so I think I'm going to go down that route. So if you've got a recommendation on where to find some good wood grain vinyl for a Frogger, you know, this is sort of a lighter grain here. Please leave me a comment down below with a suggestion. And then coming over here to the workbench, whoa, I think what ended up happening with this control panel overlay is the scraper blade that I bought, it's actually not compatible with Dremel oscillating multi-tools. I got this again from Harbor Freight. You see the list of brands that it is compatible with, many of which are sold at Harbor Freight. But it doesn't quite stay on with a Dremel, and I know there's adapters or whatever, but that feels like, you know, a recipe for trouble. So I actually just ordered a Dremel brand rigid scraper. So we will use that to make quick work of the rest of this control panel overlay. So what I think we're going to do to salvage some good news out of this episode is I'm going to replace the electrolytic capacitors on the Frogger PCB. Don't worry, this is not the PCB that caught on fire. This is the one that I got from Kazela's Arcade on YouTube. Pete is also a Overtime Arcade channel member. This is the one that's working. We saw it working in a JAMA cabinet. It's got a JAMA adapter hooked up to it. And the sound worked perfectly for a little bit. You know, Pete sold this PCB to me, you know, great price. You know, he couldn't get the sound to work at all. It was working for me fine for a moment or two, and then the music went way, way low volume-wise. The sound effects were loud enough, but the music is just super low, and I couldn't get it any higher. So what I'm going to try to do is install a cap kit for the PCB. Now, this is sold by Peter from arcadepartsandrepair.com, where I try to get as much, certainly my electronic parts and components for my restorations. And generally speaking, you don't need to replace the capacitors on most PCBs, you know, almost always with monitors and power supplies and that sort of thing, because those capacitors in those applications get driven a lot harder. Usually capacitors on PCBs, unless they're, you know, leaking or notorious for going bad, or physically damaged, generally don't need to be replaced, except often, you know, capacitors that have wandered out of spec just because of age or whatever, that can often affect sound issues. So I'm going to go ahead and shotgun all the capacitors on my Frogger board set here. I've got this kit again from Peter. It's got 7 caps, so that should be relatively easy. It's a 2-board stack, a full-size main board, and then a smaller sound board that also has the edge connector for plugging it into the harness. And again, I've got the JAMA adapter there. So yeah, I got the soldering iron and desoldering tool turned on. So let me get the camera mounted into the tripod, and we'll do the cap kit on the board set. All right, first things first, I think I'm going to remove the JAMA adapter just to get it out of my way. And again, look at that. Look at that scorch mark from where the tantalum capacitor went up in flames on the other PCB. Oh, it's such a tight fit. And yeah, scorched the heck out of that plastic. Next, I want to separate the boards, which are screwed together. So we'll do that. All right, got those 4 sort of longer machine screws out of the way, and I think it's just the ribbon cable that's holding these 2 boards together for now. So we'll separate that, put that off over here, and then the bottom part, the feet kind of come right out like that. So let me put that over here just for safekeeping. Okay, I got all the legs and spacers off. I can take a look at what's going on. This is the main PCB, obviously. I see 1, 2, 3 electrolytic capacitors. There should be 4, I thought, on this thing. All right, I figured it out. I was reading the instructions wrong. This is the main board. This is the soundboard. On the main board, we have 3 caps, 1, 2, 3, and on the soundboard, There's actually 4, most of which are hidden under this this heatsink. So we're going to start with the main board here. There's just 3. First thing I'm going to do, just while I have the board out, is kind of inspect things a little bit. And you know, one thing you notice with these Sega PCBs is they often use these blue sockets for the socketed PCBs. And I'm just looking. This one right here looks a little lifted. I always want to be kind of careful. I've done this before, and I do often like to push socketed chips into the socket just to make sure they're nice and secure. This one looks a little high, and I'm worried about pushing it in hard just because, again, it's working, so why mess with it? And I have damaged these before by pushing on them hard enough, specifically Sega sockets. Not this type of chip though. You know, it's their encrypted Z80, similar to one of my Pango. I actually damaged Russell's encrypted Z80 by pressing on it, and it popped all of the legs off. So I don't really want to mess with this, so I'm going to leave well enough alone. So we've got 3 caps here. We've got 2 that are 220 microfarad. One is 16 volts over here, one is 10 volts, and then this one is a 10 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. There's a couple of interesting things. So, you know, first of all, you know, we're going to be replacing these capacitors with capacitors of the same capacitance value, the same microfarad value, although the voltage might be a little bit higher, which is fine, generally speaking. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that for sound. I've heard people that are like audiophiles working on, you know, sound amps, repairing old sound amps, don't really want to change the voltage value, but I think we'll be okay. It's not going to be a huge jump, if anything, if we're doing that sort of thing. The other thing, and it says on the instructions here, quote, Frogger PCBs have no capacitor locations printed on the boards. So that'll be interesting. But they do list the capacitance value and polarity printed on the component side of both of the PCB boards, okay? So even in the kit, there's no capacitance capacitor locations, no location numbers like C1, C2, C3, because these boards don't have those labels, apparently, right? And I don't see that here, but I do see their value sort of printed. And it says the capacitance value in the kit will match all the existing capacitors values. The voltages will be the same or higher. And yeah, these game boards can be very tricky to remove all the solder, so you may have to add new solder or add flux to the old solder to try to remove them, which I always do. It also says the ground mask on the PCB is very large, and you need to be careful not to use too much solder when installing the new capacitors. Otherwise you might bridge the leads to the ground mask. So we'll keep an eye out for that. So why don't we start with the 220 microfarad capacitors, which are over here. And it's kind of interesting. I got to kind of eyeball where I think these leads are on the underside. So I'm assuming one is in the ground plane and this one is right here. And so we'll add a little bit of flux with my flux pen. We will add a bit of fresh solder, like I always do, and like the instructions say, to help remove the old solder. All right. And let's come in with our desoldering tool and remove the old solder. All right. Like Peter's instructions said, these are a little stubborn, but got that right out. In fact, I'm going to make sure I'm keeping a track of where the polarity is. So right here, the negative is pointing towards me, or the stripe is pointing towards me. So let's pull this sucker out all the way. There we go. And yep, negative is on the stripe, and the stripe's pointing to me. And yeah, this says 220 microfarad. Yeah, and the plus is over there, so that's good. Okay, so we'll put that old cap off to the side. We'll grab a fresh new one, double checking the value, 220 and 35. And 220 microfarad right there, positive on that side, negative on this side. There we go. Get it in as flush as possible. And then we'll come over here. And avoid using too much solder. All right. Let's see, that looks pretty good, but we never trust our eyes, we trust our multimeter. So actually, let me get up and grab mine. It's just over here. And we'll turn it to continuity. Ooh, battery is slow to turn on. Maybe this thing is needs a fresh battery. In any event, let's see where I can grab another ground. All right, that's good. Those are not directly connected. Ooh, that doesn't have a connection on this side. That's interesting. I think it goes right there. Yep. Good. So happy with that. What I'm going to do actually is I'll do the other two capacitors on the main board here. We just clip these excess legs off. And I'll go, like I said, I'll do the other two on the main board. You gotta be careful not to mess with these bodge wires. I'll do the other two that are right here. It'll be just the same. And then we'll do the sound board, which has a little bit of extra stuff going on here to take a look at. So stay tuned. Okay, I finished replacing all three caps on the main PCB, no problem. And I've already done 3 out of 4 of the capacitors on the sound PCB. One right over here. Let's see, one kind of hiding out a little bit here under the heatsink. One mostly under the heatsink right here. And there's one more cap. You can see it right in there. Right smack in the underneath that heatsink there. And this is going to be a bit of a pain. This other one was tricky to get in, but I had some clearance. You know, this one is really not. I've already desoldered it, so I should be able to pull it out no problem, he said. All right. It ended up falling right out. And again, it's a 100 microfarad 25 volt, which is exactly what we're going to be replacing it with. And the hard part is going to be fishing it into its correct spot without much clearance in there. So the holes look nice and clear, I think. It's really hard to see, and I think they're clear. So I'm going to do my best. Yeah, I think what I'm probably going to do is the new capacitor is a little bit smaller than the older one. I'm probably going to trim the legs down pretty significantly just to be able to have some maneuvering space to get it in there. So let me go and do that real quick, and I'll come back and show you how I made out. But this is a bit tricky. You know, if I had a good way, you know, to kind of show you of, you know, it going in there, but I'm going to need to get my nose in here real close. So let me go and do that and then show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, I've got it sort of fished in there. It actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be with the sort of really thin needle nose pliers that I have. I can come in now and just kind of tack it, push it down into place to get it nice and flush. And now we can go ahead and make sure it's flush. Don't really want to lean up against the heatsink, but yeah, now we can solder it in place and we'll be done. So the reason I didn't want to take this whole heatsink off is it's really a heatsink for this amp right here. If you can see it, the lighting's not great. There's a, I don't know, 9 or 10 sort of leg IC right there, vertical IC. That's an amp chip. And I do, you know, I do have a replacement for that, because if the caps don't fix this, the next logical step will be to replace the, whoops, trying to bend the legs in here so that it doesn't move out of the way while I'm soldering this. One also pro gamer move that I used right here was I actually marked the top of the capacitor with Sharpie before it was installed, because I was never going to be able to reach that with the Sharpie with the heatsink in place. And my OCD needs that Sharpie mark in there to know that I replaced it. I've double checked the polarity and that's all good. So we're just soldering it in place now. And yeah, if I need to replace that amp, obviously I will be taking off the heatsink, but I didn't want to have to do that because removing the heatsink would require me to disconnect the amp from the heatsink, which I didn't really want to do. So that doesn't look like it's bridging. Let me come and double check again with our multimeter. And yep, we are filming. Good. Oh, okay. Let's see. All right. That's good. They're not directly bridged. And I really can't tell where this leg is supposed to go on the other side. So I'll go fishing around and just find something that it should be connected to. And it's got a good solid connection right there. So that tells me at least it's connected to something. So good. I'll go ahead and mark this off on the list. So hopefully that cap kit will solve our low volume issue with the sound, with the music. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn off my soldering irons, and I'll reassemble the board, and then we'll be ready to stick it into the cabinet and test it, and hopefully we've got good sound again. Okay, we're all put back together, we're plugged in, ready to go. We're in the Superman cabinet, the Dynamo HS7 JAMA cabinet. I was gonna plug the Frogger PCB into the Frogger cabinet, and I had that all set up, and then I realized Frogger doesn't have free play. There are no dip switch settings on the Frogger PCB to turn it into free play, and I can't remember if I have a free play kit that I've ordered that I haven't installed yet. But anyway, we'll figure that out at some point, you know, because the Frogger, the coin door is not plugged in, and the wiring's not set up, and the service panel isn't set up to use a service switch. Anyway, so there's no way to actually start a game on Frogger, so we wouldn't be able to hear the sound, right? So plugged back in to the Superman cabinet, and I think we are ready to go. So keep your fingers crossed that we'll be able to start up a game and hear that beautiful Frogger music. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. I hear some static on the speaker. And we have Frogger starting to appear on the screen. All right, you should be able to hear that. Let me go and turn down the house lights just to make it a little bit better, a little bit easier to see. There we go. That should be a lot better. And I feel like this is going to be at full blast when I turn it on. So keep your fingers crossed that we don't blow a speaker or anything. So let me go ahead and coin up. If I can reach in here and get that. It is mega loud. So let me get ready to turn down the volume when we start it. Grab one of my adjustment tools here just to make it easier on myself. Because yeah, this volume pot is fully cranked and it's right there. So I'm going to start a game and be ready to turn it down. Here we go. Yeah. Hear how loud it is? That is great. It happened again. You heard that, right? It was super loud. It was super loud and now it's not. And it's from me messing with the adjustment pot. It's back down to barely being able to hear it. I don't get it. The music was back. It was great. It was fine. It was super loud. What is going on? Is it the amp? Do I need to replace the amp on this thing? So I power cycled it and it's loud again. And there we go. Now it's quiet again, and all I did was hit the controls. What could that be? All right, let me do a little bit of research, and maybe we will be replacing this amp chip after all. Oh my goodness. All right, I've got the board back out, disassembled again. Here is the sound board. So I think there's maybe three kind of things that I can try one at a time. First is the sound amp. See that sort of vertical IC, all dusty and dirty in there. That's mounted right against the heatsink. I'm going to try replacing that. So basically I will unscrew it from the heatsink. It doesn't even want to focus. There, that might be a little bit better. So I will unscrew it to unmount it from the heatsink. I'll remove the 3 screws holding the heatsink onto the PCB, and then I'll desolder and resolder in the new sound amp. And I got a new one here from Peter, arcadepartsandrepair.com. This is a M51516L, I believe. So we'll try that. If that doesn't work, there is a LM741 IC right there that's not socketed. We can try replacing that. That's an op amp. And there's also this AY38910 sound chip right here. You know, and the fact that it works for a little bit and then doesn't work, I'm not sure what to make of that. That could be a logic issue and, you know, marginal IC that's failing, something like that. But anyway, that's what I'm going to try. So let me try replacing that M51516 and see if that helps. Cross your fingers. Okay, let's try that again. I've got that new amp chip in, the M51516L, I believe. That went in, well, the old one came out really easily, didn't fight me at all, really a lot easier than I thought it would be. That wasn't so bad. The new one went in just fine, and everything looks good. I've got it all put back together, the PCB put back together, plugged back in, ready to go. So keep your fingers crossed that this works. 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right, we've got Frogger on the screen again. Yeah, you can kind of see it. There's some glare, but let's coin up and see what we get. All right, it's nice and loud. Nope. That's not it. That's not it. Music's still quiet. So, all right, 2 more things to try. There's the LM741, I think, and then the AY whatever chip. So, let's nothing's going right. All right, ready for another test. And what do they say? 3rd time's a charm, right? So what I actually did was replace the sound chip. This is a, let's see if it'll zoom in. Nope. AY-3-8910 sound chip. And I pulled the one off of the other Frogger board set that I have, the one that caught on fire. So I don't know if that chip works, but I swapped it in. The one I just showed you was the original one from this PCB. So I've now put in the one from the Fiery Frogger PCB. Everything's plugged back in together, and hopefully we are good to go. So let's see if we get loud music that stays loud. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Nothing has caught fire, which is good. And I'm starting to see the tube warm up. So yeah, we've got some Frogger playing on the screen. Let's coin up. All right, it's low, but that could be because I turned it down low. Let me turn this. Nope. Nope. With the pots all the way up, and we still have very low sound volume. So The last thing I'm prepared to try today is the, I think it's a LM741 chip that's kind of obstructed by the heatsink. So let me go and rip that off the board, put a new one in. It's not a socketed chip, so I think I'll probably drop in a, yeah, the sound effects are loud. I'll drop in a socket and we'll try that. All right, let's try that again. I've got a new 8-pin socket and a new 741 chip installed. Of course, I got it from arcadepartsandrepair.com. So hopefully this fixes it. And if not, there's nothing else I'm prepared to try tonight. You know, again, the music works, and it works great initially, and then within a moment or two, it drops the volume of the music almost to nothing, right? So that's got to be some kind of amp thing, right? 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 Okay, fingers crossed, here we go. Final attempt, 3, 2, 1. Now I hear a whine. I hear a whine coming out of the speaker that I wasn't getting before. We've got Frogger on the display. Let's see what happens when we coin up. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness. You're hearing this, right? I'm trying to play sideways. Oh man. This joystick's not really great for Frogger. It's like the joystick is sticky. There we go. Let's see if we can get across. I think we fixed it. Whoa. All right, let's see. You can hear the music, I hope. Oh man. I need to at least get across. I gotta get across. All right, let's turn it down a little bit to a more reasonable volume. Hopefully that's it. That's still really loud. Okay, that should be a good volume. Let's see. I'm going to turn my head sideways. The up is kind of sticky on this joystick. Let's at least get a frog across. Yeah, I can't go up. But I don't think that's a Frogger problem. I think that's a joystick problem. Like I keep hitting the... There we go. There we go, we got a Frogger cross. All right, there's one more thing I want to do. One more thing I want to do. So let me shut this down. But you hear the music, it's playing. I think we fixed it. Okay, the last thing I want to try, last thing I want to do in this episode is actually back with the Frogger cabinet. You know, I actually was I was hoping on testing the PCB in this cabinet, again, that we have all set up with JAMA. And don't worry, that's not the Frogger PCB, that is the bit kit. But, you know, the reason, like I mentioned, the reason I can't test the PCB in the cabinet is it doesn't have free play and I don't have any credit switches or anything set up. So we wouldn't be able to start a game to test the music. But this is, you know, Frogger running on the Crafty Mech BitKit 2 PCB, and you saw that in a previous episode. But what I want to do is fix this marquee light. So it's got the caliber 50 conversion marquee in here, and removing the marquees on these type of Sega cabinets, like on the Pango and the Carnival and the depth charge is kind of weird. There's sort of a kind of a piece of metal that acts as a spring in this channel below, and the marquee is just sort of sitting in this a top groove and a bottom groove, and you got to kind of jam it down. And I learned a trick from Overtime Arcade channel member Dillweed. Ooh, I got some, I think that's dirt on the monitor. I need to clean this and recap this 4600 of using like plastic knives to kind of wedge it in there. And so through the magic of television, I've actually already, if I can get it, there we go. I got the marquee off, so we'll take the old one off. And look at this. I don't think this is right. There is a little light bulb socket in here instead of a marquee, you know, fluorescent light fixture. And there's these like carriage bolts here that I think are meant to hold a, you know, fluorescent marquee light fixture in here. And, you know, the wires have been cut and fixed with, you know, electrical tape. So I'm sure this bulb is burned out. So let me remove it here. Look at this thing. And it's not even a 60-watt bulb. This is a little 15-watt tiny bulb here. But again, through the magic of television, I do have a replacement here. So let me try putting this in and seeing if it comes on. I think eventually I'll go ahead and rebuild this marquee light fixture. Come on, let there be light. Why is it that color? What the heck did I buy? All right, this is the light bulb that I got from, from Ace Hardware. It says Frost. There's barely any light coming out of this thing. Oh my gosh. What a ridiculous episode this has turned into. You know, and it's already Saturday. I should have had this video out already for early access by Overtime Arcade channel members. But let's do one last thing to make it a little special at the end. Here is my new reproduction Frogger marquee that I got from Arcade Shop. You probably saw me open up this order if you watched my unboxing New Year's, or not New Year's, my Christmas unboxing special on Christmas morning. And it's dirty in here, so this will not be the last time that I put this marquee in. Let's see if we can get it slotted into the groove here and push down. All right, and kind of slide it in. Here we go. There is our Frogger marquee that's lit, and that bulb is so dim. So dim. Look how bad that looks. I mean, the marquee looks good. The new marquee looks really nice, but that light, that light bulb that's powering it right now, the little 15-watt frosted light bulb, is not doing the trick, but that's replacing what was in it originally. So I think I'll wrap it up here. We'll make it really, really fast. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like the video, leave me a comment down below. If you want to support the channel, become a channel member, buy some merch. And stay tuned for future episodes. As always, you've been watching Overtime Arcade. I'm Charlie, and I'll see you next time. Overtime!